he doesn't get that
What?
angry. Yeah, but that's one thing that
Oh yeah, when it's because that was
He defended that one.
yeah. Here again, I always say things that's associated with what I consider my rights quest and my rights commitment. It's certain things that are said and done that I step out there and defend them. You know, or give another perspective to them.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
all right, Jerry.
And the names, and the names. So often to me, names are very important.
Yes.
You know, and I always say historically when I read the significance about when particularly Africans came over here, well, not so much even using the term Africans, to use the term Commetans or Akibelanians. And see, we got to take some of our people back to that because Sir Africanus, he didn't look like me or my ancestors. So I must take it back to the Commetans and the Akibelanians to give that name. To me, unless you can go back and reconnect with your true ancestors, you're still oppressed.
I want to get this.
You're still oppressed. And so to me, to eliminate yourself from a form of oppression, you must take on the names, the images, and some of the folk ways and rituals of your ancestors. Otherwise, you're copying your oppressors' practices. How can you find emancipation and freedom from that? I don't know. I have not seen it give a group true emancipation and freedom by copying their oppressors' ways. So that's the issue for me.
Sure. Well, and Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali articulated that so well. It's like,
Right.
I'm not going to keep this slave name. Why should I be a slave? You know? Yeah. So, well, first, tell us your name, please, and spell it, and your organizational affiliation.
My name is Jerry Kwame Williams, and I'm affiliated with Alchemy Program, co-facilitator, drummer, and teller stories.
Great. And so tell us about your initiation.
My initiation goes back with very close friends, and we were friends way back then, Dr. Whitaker and Paul Hill, and there was really about 30 of us going through there. Dr. Anthony Menza was our trainer who took us through there, who gave us the concept of, and here again I use that term, I need to give a whole new concept of a mentor. To me, it's the man's tour. You know, like when you go to a particular place, one of the wisest person about all of the artifacts and things that you're going to see is your tour guide. So if you have a real man who knows all of the artifacts and the issues and the things that you're going to see, that man should take you through that tour. I wanted to be transformed into that man so that when I assist others, they would get a real tour, not an artificial tour. They would get the real thing. So I wanted to embrace that mentor role from that perspective, that I would be taking them through a man's tour, because I'm a man, and I need to do that. Otherwise, I would continue to perpetuate that miseducation of my offsprings, and I didn't want to do that. So my rights gave me that sense of awakening. Detroit, when I was young, we had Young Panthers. So I grew up as a Young Panther in Detroit. So I had a sense of connection. Being duped by some of the street stuff that was going on in Detroit, I pulled away from that. I was drawn into the fast money, into the other stuff. Thank the Almighty Creator, I found my way back. You know, because I remembered. For some situations make you remember. You know, well, bumps on the head. I call them think knots. The knots that make you think. Yeah. So I found my way back, and now I try to pass it on to other young people. Yeah.
You know, one of my proudest moments when we first moved to Oakland, we lived across the street from Huey Newton's sister. and the Newton house was like 7 blocks away. And actually it broke my heart when they sold it. It was only like a year and a half ago, they sold it out of the family. And I was like, oh my
No
God,
kidding.
it should be made into a museum, you know, for Christ's sake. Anyway, a separate issue. But thank you for what you say about mentor.
That's diminishing the men's tour, because certain things that we consider sacred, we should hold on to them, because there's too much history in certain things. And we need to see those artifacts. To me, we need to see those artifacts. Holding on to homes that can reignite that type of energy in young people, that it's a good thing. To sell them off, to me, diminish the worth. And I think we need to maintain that sense of worth of our stuff.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Well, and it just points to what I call the lack of generativity.
Yes.
You know, in our society, that there's everything is fast, new, now. You know, and there's nothing that connects us through time to each other anymore. And it was, and it's mentors that do that. They connect us through time to each other, to our cultural traditions, to our heritage, and nobody has that anymore. They're like little atoms floating, they think, free in space, but they're not.
They're not.
They're not. They're connected, but they don't know the connections.
Yeah, to me, that's that whole, we consider it a form of technology and it's an advancement. To me, it's a regression. Because a certain age population now, and maybe even the young people, they can't recite 10, 15 phone numbers, where I remember the other population, 10, 15, 20, 25 phone numbers, just rip them straight off. Automatically knew that. They knew everyone's name in the family, the neighborhood. They even knew their birthdays. Now, if you probably don't get an alert from an electronic system that record that, you say, oh, sorry, I missed your birthday, because they don't say that I didn't get an alert from my Twitter, but in reality, it's it. We have surrendered so much of our own free will of thinking that it worries me.
Well, if you go back one more generation, my parents' generation memorized poems. They used to know 5 or 10 or 15 poems, that they were taught when they were in grammar school, that they had to memorize. And they knew them through their life, and they could recite them like that.
And to me, that's why storytelling is so important to me. It is the value that you get from the stories, the myth. Within them, there's value. There's character building. There's ways to resolve problems. There's how to get through it. And to me, that is the significance of getting individuals to tell the story. And as time goes along, if you retell the story or recite it again, you're learning because you're at a different point in your life. So to me, a story, you don't need to hear it just once. You need to hear it again and again, and because it may have helped you with this situation, with what you were going through then, but now later on something else is affecting your life. Listen to that same story, and you know what? It'll help you another way. We allow so much, we hear so much, but do we really pull out of the story what we should, or do writers today give stories that have those archetypal principles that the other old stories possess? To me, the true writers gave archetypal principles in those stories that assisted us. To me, those are great writers. It assisted those individuals back in the old days, and they're still assisting them to this day. To me, that is what allows me to say, that's a great writer. I see those archetypal principles in there to help people get through their life's issues. It may be perceived as entertaining, but it's deeper than that, So I like the deeper than that concept.
I hear you. Me too. Well, and we use, my entry into this work was through the Mankind Project. I don't even know if you're familiar with that group, and we use the Iron John story. That's the primary myth that we use on that weekend, to initiate men, which is really deep and resonant. So talk about how rites of passage could be the unifying field theory, if you will, for youth development. That if we just understand this framework and implement it effectively, we can connect all the dots between all of the youth dysfunctions, whatever they may be.
To me, I think how rites of passage can pull that together. There's a disconnect between generations. Rites of passage, to me, said you must go back, you must reach back, successfully reach back and connect with the young and have a contact with the old, to have that whole succession model in place when you deal with life. it allows young people to connect with an older person and see the need to help the younger person. So that's the model that I push and promote. Training that young person at whatever age they're in, according to Joseph Pierce's concept on life development, using the proper matrix. Here's where you need to be at this age. Nature is saying it more so. I'd be careful about some of the images and training of our community, because they can try to say this person should be doing this and that, and they may not be ready for that. For example, to expose young individuals to these serious emotional messages, and they're not emotionally mature at the time. Now, to me, that's going to create a trauma for them. And if no one is guiding them, or a mentor taking them through that tour, and there's no rites of passage person who's connected to them, they have to try to figure that out themselves. Woe to the young people who try to figure that out. You know, they would give it their best. But we need that structure in place where we're all connected and we see that connectedness. You know, if one fail, we all fail. And it was alluded to by many others, that it is because we don't get involved in each other's lives as much as we used to. And I say, lo and behold, if you don't assist that person, you may equally become a victim of that. And one archetypal story that we see, and I brought it to someone's attention recently, about just Spider-Man. The archetypal principle of Spider-Man, to me, that resonates with me, is when he did not take that gun from that man who shot his uncle. Had he only intervened at a time when someone was saying, stop that. And by not stopping that situation, he became a victim of the stuff that followed. So I just love those type of situations.
Well, what you say reminds me, and I don't know that particular story well, but, you know, our wounds are our gifts, right?
Yes.
Our wounds are our gifts, and that to me is one of the central teachings that needs to be communicated to the young. First to honor the wound, you know, to grieve with them and to let them fully release whatever they need to release around it. But, you know, then to begin that alchemy, that transformation of utilizing that wound into your life direction and into your gift. You know, I mean, it's kind of maybe a superficial example, but if you were sexually abused as a child, you know, your gift to the world might be, as an adult, I'm going to make sure that no more fucking kids are ever sexually abused.
Yes.
You know, that's my gift to the world. That's what I'm going to give back, right? So that's part of what you guys do.
Yeah, and you really, I mean, I worked for Children's Services for many years, retired from that. So I know those scenarios. And to assist someone to say, now you must become a voice, or we hope you become a voice, because you possess a sensitivity to that issue that others can't even figure out. Now, would you become a voice? And so often that have really worked out to be a healing component for those victims. Their wound have given them a whole new sense of strength, you know, and a whole new sense of purpose in life. And you try to convince them or talk to them in a way to say, you know what, you must have been the one that needed to go through that so that others would not have to, you know. Because I hold true to the old concept that now has changed. There was a time where they used to call women who gave birth without a husband bastard children. But when another population started to have them, as much as that minority population, they became single females. Help me with that picture. I mean, just a redefinition of things that was not as destructive. So I always say, you know what, no matter who come here on the planet, there is a purpose for them coming here, a tremendous purpose. And our role is to try to help them find that purpose. I embrace that role of trying to help them find that purpose.
Yeah. Amen. Talk about how, and this might be a little bit outside your comfort zone even, but how universal the need is. So it's not just, you know, low income kids of color. I mean, this is a universal need. And you might not be familiar with how it manifests, white kids in the suburbs, but they sure as hell need it as much or more, in my experience.
No, to me, it's global. It needs to exist everywhere, whether you are the oppressed or the oppressor. To help one without changing the other, you have not changed the problem. To give an oppressed person more ability to tolerate oppression, hell, you haven't done anything. And my belief, my mindset, how did you help them? Well, now they can take more shit. Wow. So, and you're going to equate that with success? I don't. To me, you must talk to the oppressed and the oppressor, and there must be a flatter field and a common ground. Otherwise, you know, the rich is getting richer and the poor is getting poorer. You know, I'll just pull it down to that simple analogy. It needs to be a whole change, whether you call that whole or holistic. It needs to be a whole change with everyone involved. Otherwise, the mindset that maintains the oppressor will remain, you know, and the oppressed, their mindset will remain. And they try to make sense out of both and try to find a comfort zone in that. You know, to me, eradication of that both ways of thinking needs to kind of be.
That dynamic.
Yeah, that dynamic need to be removed. You know, or dwindle down to the point that where the few that may think that way, you're not impacting the world the way you're impacting them today. You know, some of that residual stuff, it'll continue to exist, but we need to make them so minute that they will not have the power that they have today. Yeah, I believe that.
What I hear in that is that, you know, initiation is essential for the privileged because A, they have to be brought face to face with their privilege.
Face to face.
Face to face, and also so that they don't unconsciously continue to perpetrate.
Yep.
To be perpetrators on others.
And to get rid of all the little concepts they have, like, well, everyone can do this. No, everyone cannot. You know, as long as you control so much of what you control, others will not be allowed that privilege or that opportunity. And systematically, they will keep you out because they're geared to think that way. And they need to be confronted with their own systematic way of keeping people out. And those who are oppressed need to develop systematic ways to tear down those barriers. You know.
Beautiful. Yeah. You know, we have such a kind of misunderstanding of what rites of passage actually means in contemporary society. So talk about, I mean, how you would distinguish a healthy or pro-social or community-based rite of passage versus a neutral one like just turning 18 or getting your driver's license or getting to vote or drink or have sex or whatever, or a negative one even of like fraternity hazing or bullying or gangbanging, you know? Distinguish those for me.
Let me start off with the first, when young people are looking for successful passage rituals, you know, to me, I totally understand why gangbangers, you know, haze you in. That shows a sense of faith and commitment. Or consequence should you bail out and you don't hold true to your word. Our society has minimized the rites of passage down to those simple things, and they can legislate them all the time. Well, you can be legislate the difference. Well, 18 or maybe 21 before you can do this or do that. I don't like that. Now you're emancipated. You can go out here and do what you want. Can you really? I think we need to use those old traditional ways of rites of passage in everything that we do. When you reach that certain level of maturity, you should be given those rights and responsibilities because the community say you have those skills. Don't just lock it into an age. And to me, if you want those rights and responsibilities, the community must know you. And they must validate them. They must say, yes, I know that person, they're ready to do this. And to me, that would be support should that person not like not having that responsibility. and then want to say, I'm going to do it anyway, the whole community would be like, no, you're not. We're not going to let you. You know, and the old projects that I grew in back in the day, we had that, where I don't care what elder saw you doing something wrong, they would chastise or whip you. And on the flip side of that, if they knew your parents were not home and you looked hungry, they would feed you. It was a nurturing environment. I don't know if today's project is like that, you know. And to me, it's because of the change in our society. Not so much because of the brick buildings, but I think it's a change outside of the bricks. So,
yeah. You know, it's the second time I'm reminded of a Michael Meade quote, you know, which is so wonderful. You know, of course, he inverts, you know, it takes a whole village to raise a child.
Yes.
He says it takes the struggles of youth to raise a village, to raise the community. And that, to me, that's so brilliant, because he basically is pointing his finger at a measurement standard for our communities, how effective they are. That if we're not meeting the challenge of young people coming up and pushing up against us, that's on us.
yes.
That's on us. And we have to come together to meet that challenge. Talk about that.
To me, it's that simple. For every action, there's an equal reaction. To expect a young child to conform to something they've never been taught and successfully rewarded for, to me, it's insanity. You will give them the full raft of the law, and they really didn't even understand the crimes that they committed. Yes, they committed a bad act and something, and it needs to be addressed, but we in turn just put the raft on them. We need to successfully educate young people, or all people growing up, so that there's a smoother playing field. Otherwise, the consequences of their behavior, you know, we're going to attack it from that criminal mindset, a punitive mindset. For adults to feel as though they're justifying, they're correcting a war on drugs, a war on crime, a war on poverty, buh. The answer is just the opposite of that. If they're unemployed, employ them. If they're poor health, give them something else. We have not systematically integrated that into our system. I believe that we want them to still fight for that little bit that exists for the population, and that all are going to make it. No, they're not. They're all not going to make it on that little slice of pie that area get. We need to make that slice bigger, but that requires some sacrifice from others, and I don't think they're going to do that. Those wise, brilliant adults who have all these credentials, so they say, and the top decision-making roles, for them not to legislate, here again, or create programs and policies that really affect what's going on in their community or with the times, to me, they're missing it. They're missing it. You're holding someone accountable for something that they've never been trained to be accountable for. To me, that's a sense of insanity in our community. People are going to do something, and if you don't give them directions on what that something need to be, watch how you are so critical of what they are doing. So I look at it kind of from that lens, that we need to assure that they know something. And you must come up with a variety of ways of educating people, you know, that this route only is the way they're going to get it. They must be able to do this and that. And I'm so afraid now with this third grade reading test that is sweeping the country. You know, you have a lot of homes where there's a lot of poor people who don't have books. And will the tests take any of that in consideration? You have a lot of illiterate or mothers or fathers around, and how will they teach and coach or mentor their child? So you're putting a person at a disadvantage where this other group may have all the other tools that they need to breeze through it. Not an even playing field.
Yeah, well, and you know, the other huge implication of not initiating our young people is they become, of course, suspended adolescents.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So they may have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old bodies, but they still got teenage brains, and they're still acting out of those shadows, and they're still acting out of fear unconsciously, and they're not living a deep sense of purpose for the good of the community, right? Talk about that.
And we're not benefactors. If the Creator put this person on the planet, we're supposed to nurture them to the point that we become recipients of the gift that they have. To me, that's what Rites of Passage told me. Assist that person's growth so that when their gift is revealed to the world will benefit. You know, I didn't bring this person, I have children, but in turn, I think it's a gift from God, the Creator. So in turn, nurture that person to the point of being able to present their gift to the world. And I think I look at all children that way, that they possess something, whether I'm the recipient, but someone will be a recipient of their gift, and we need to nurture them. To me, that's an adult's responsibility. And the elders is to remind all the adults and the children, you're successfully going through it, you know, and that child will know when they get to adulthood, they will do the same thing, and when they get to elders, they will encourage them to continue that process.
And you remind me of yet another huge value that is so essential to the well-being of communities, and it's turning our culture around from a me, what can I get culture to a gift-giving culture. That we're all here to actually give our gifts and to give them freely, and if we do that, we're going to be inundated with other people's gifts. You know, so we don't need to be out there hustling like, where's my money? You know, well, you're not paying me. No, it's about, I'm going to give you my gift, and whatever comes back to me is a part of our interconnectedness, right?
Yes. The whole gift, we've created a society now to where the barter system have changed. When we were living as a village, we made sure that there was someone attending the crops, someone that was making clothes, someone that was doing all the protection. You didn't need the illusion of this one means of exchange. The old means of exchange was the need to just do it. Now, if you don't have the currency, you don't have. To me, to become that callous in our world that you can walk past a hungry person and not even care. Or you know that particular community or neighborhood, they're starving. Or you make the political statement, that's the poorest district in our city, in our region. And you do nothing. I just say, woe to you. To me, that conscious thought, it entered your mind for a reason. And for me, if it entered your mind, it's something about your skills that could assist those individuals. Take advantage of it, you know.
Well, and obviously in Akron, this is less of an issue, but you know, we live in a consumer society where we're fed the lie every day through all our media that you have to consume in order to have meaning in your life, right? The bumper sticker says it all. He who dies with the most toys wins, right? Which is, of course, you know,
trap. It's a trap.
It's crap. It's bullshit. And yet, that's the society we live in, you know. So, talk about how Rites of Passage is an antidote to that.
Rites of Passage, I believe, will let you know that if you see someone hungry and you're not feeding them, then you're violating the whole principle. It's the value system. It's the whole structure that you must stay in line with the universe. The universe is totally, it's in total alignment. And we need to be in that whole sense of alignment to where we're not taking advantage of others. We're not creating systems and plans that destroy others and do that. And I used to make mention about just the illusion of the successful white boy. This high class, top, smart, brilliant guy making all this money. Hell, the average white boy can't even achieve that today. It's killing them. To me, they're losing out on life's valuable assets by pursuing something that really don't even exist. They're after those toys. They're after that status. And I'm like, guy, you know, you're losing your life chasing something that you created pull away, enjoy this gift called life, and everybody that's in it. So,
Amen. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I have more questions, not many, but I want to save it for Shelton to give
Okay.
you a chance. So,
All right.
is there anything else though that you want to say that we haven't addressed?
you know, concerning your Latino name, the validation of my name. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm gonna